Have you ever just stared at a map of the ocean and wondered what's really down there? Today, we are diving deep, and I mean deep, into a wild theory that's been gaining a lot of traction online. It says that what we see on public maps, like Google Earth, isn't just incomplete, it's that parts of it are being deliberately hidden from us.
You've all heard that line, right? That we've mapped the surface of the moon and Mars better than our own seabed. The official reason is always, well, the ocean is just too big, too deep, it's too hard to survey. But this theory we're looking at today asks a pretty simple question. It's 2026. With the kind of tech we have now, is that excuse really good enough anymore?
Okay, so this is really the heart of the whole thing. On one hand, you have the official explanation, which, sounds perfectly reasonable. But then you have what the theory claims, that our tech, everything from deep-sea sonar to satellites, is so powerful it can spot objects the size of a car in the deepest parts of the ocean. So if we can see what's down there, why are these huge patches on our maps all blurry, pixelated, or just gone? This is where the rabbit hole really starts.
So this entire theory is basically built on three big pieces of evidence. Let's start with the first one, which believers have nicknamed the tracks of a machine. When you start digging into the public bathymetric data, which is just a fancy scientific term for maps of the ocean floor, theorists point to these absolutely incredible anomalies. I mean, we're talking about perfectly straight lines, sometimes running parallel like train tracks that go on for hundreds, if not thousands of miles. You can find them near places like the Mariana Trench, and they don't look natural at all.
So the immediate question you have to ask is, what on Earth, or I guess under it, could possibly be creating marks like that on such a massive geometric scale?
Okay, so the way supporters of this theory approach this is pretty methodical. It's a process of elimination. They go down the list of all the usual explanations. Tectonic plates? Nope, not this straight, not this perfect. Giant fishing trawlers? The scale is just way, way too big. Laying undersea cables? The patterns don't match with anything we know. And what about just a simple computer glitch in the data? They argue it's just too consistent, too widespread to be a simple error.
So after they've crossed every normal explanation off the list, the theory is left with a conclusion that is, well, it's pretty out there. They claim these aren't natural features. They're not glitches. They are tracks. The kind of tracks left by some kind of gigantic belt-driven machine, mining or building something on the bottom of the ocean.
All right, now for the second pillar of evidence. This one zooms in from those huge planet-wide patterns to one very specific and pretty famous anomaly. People call it the Baltic Dead Zone.
Now, real quick, before we get into the details of this thing, you need to know a term that pops up all the time in these conversations, USO. It stands for Unidentified Submerged Object. It's basically the underwater version of a UFO, and it is central to understanding how theorists look at things like this.
Okay, so let's look at the data around the Baltic Sea Anomaly. Divers found this huge circular object on the seabed that just doesn't look like a rock. But for the theorists, here's the kicker: the electromagnetic field. They say that when you get within about 200 meters of this thing, all your electronics, cameras, satellite phones, you name it, they just die. So what's their conclusion? This can't be just a weirdly shaped rock. It has to be something with an active power source, like a buried machine or maybe even some kind of reactor. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most convincing part of the theory. This is the evidence that people claim is actively being erased from our maps. They call them the vanishing structures or the coordinates that have been cleaned up.
One of the best-known examples is the so-called Malibu anomaly. Proponents pass around these archived screenshots from older mapping software, and they seem to show this big oval-shaped structure off the coast of California, with what look like giant pillars holding it up. But, and this is the whole point, they claim if you go to those exact same coordinates on a live map today in 2026, there's nothing, just a flat, blurry, totally featureless smudge on the seabed.
And according to the theory, this is not an isolated incident. There's another famous example they call the Pacific Pyramids, these huge geometric structures that were supposedly right there on older maps. And you guessed it, the claim is that if you check those coordinates today, they're gone, replaced by a smooth, generic ocean floor texture, as if somebody literally went in and scrubbed them from the map.
So this is where the conversation shifts from what might be down there to who might be doing the hiding. And the theory asks a very direct question. What kind of authority has the power to tell a private company like Google to systematically edit the actual map of our own planet?
It all really feeds into this central idea that you see repeated over and over again by followers of this theory.
It's captured perfectly in this quote. We are encouraged to look at the stars while the real mystery happens right under our oceans.
And that's where we're going to leave this. Because whether you believe in giant undersea machines or secret bases, the theory itself touches on something much bigger and much more real for all of us today. When the very maps we use to see and understand our world can be changed, blurred, or edited without anyone telling us, what does the term ground truth even mean anymore?